All right, I actually waited overnight to come back to this, and it is definitely glued on there now, which is exactly what I wanted. So you can see we have our front journal cover, and this, is going to be the middle, but in any other journal, it would just be a back journal cover. So this one is complete. Now we're going to connect the other part of the Do-Si-Do journal. So what I need to do for this one is I'm going to turn this over. Actually, we're just going to go like this because I want to see how it's going to go on. So this is the front of my journal, then this is the middle, and then if I turn it over, I want it to open on this side. So we want this one to connect like this, and we want this to be on this side. So once again, to make it easier to do, I'm just going to flip everything over. So I know that I want to mark out my spine like I had done the other one, and then we're going to glue it down just like I had done the other one. And once again, this will be on the outside part of the spine so that it will get covered with our finished fabric. Okay, so I grabbed my grease pencil and my ruler, and we're just going to move these kind of aside so that I don't, forget where I want to put them. And we're going to mark this one the same way we had marked the other one. So I'm going to put it in the middle of two spots here on my board. And I'm just going to mark the middle as best I can here. Make sure that looks even. That looks good. And then we'll mark our 1/4 inch on each side. And boy, this ruler is really getting tough to see the marks on there. They're coming off. Let me see if I can find a better end to make this work. There we go. That works a little better. Okay, so I'm going to put my 1/4 inch here and my 1/4 inch here, and then we'll do one more up here. And then we will have our glue lines ready to go. There we go. So now we have our 1/2 inch once again in here, and I know that I'm going to glue here and here. And we have where we're going to glue our journal as well, or we have our covers ready to go. So I'm going to do the same thing as I did with the other one. I'm going to add glue, and then I'm going to give it a good amount of time to set up and grab. So this gaffer's tape that I've been using, the side that I'm gluing on right now is a little bit, I don't know how to describe it. I mean, it's got a little bit of a texture to it, but I don't think it's very porous. So I want to be sure that, I get this set down and let it go so I don't accidentally bump it, because that would be me. I would definitely do that. So I'm just getting the glue on here so that I can get it glued down. And then through the magic of video, I will be back when this is dry. For me, it may seem like a couple hours. For you, it'll be a couple seconds. So just to, once again, since we're doing the same thing, I'm trying to make sure my covers line up along this bottom line so that the whole journal will be, in line there, same size. I won't have it offset any. And I'm just going to press these down real good, real carefully, and try not to move them because they are definitely still sliding around here. And then I'm just going to let this go until they are good and dry. So I will be right back. Okay, I've let enough time pass that this is nice and dry now and stuck fast, which is good. And we now have the basis for our do-si-do journal. So that being said, you know, this is where you could start to do, you know, just about anything you wanted to do. So my plan, as I've kind of told you, is I have this small signature for this side of the journal. And so you can see the way we did our spine, this is what will be showing, the floral print there will be showing for this part of the journal. And then for this side of the journal, I wanted to do just some fun flips and pockets in here. So that is what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and sew this in. And then you could make two signatures like this and just put them in either side of your journal. So you'd have one that opens this way, and then you would have another signature where it opens this way. If you want to do that, that's, you know, that's entirely up to you. That's an option for you. But this one, I wanted to do something a little different on the back side of the journal. But let's go ahead and finish this part, because then you could do this part if you wanted to. And then, you know, you'd have a do-si-do journal just with, you know, two signatures in there. So let me go grab the stuff to get this sewn in. I'm going to grab my needle and my thread, and we'll get this sewn in and ready to go. Okay, I grabbed a couple of my big giant paper clips to kind of hold everything in place. I'm not, you know, normally when I would sew something in, I would make like a spine template, so I have all the holes ready to go and things like that. But because this is one signature and I'm going to be hiding this part anyway, I'm not going to worry about it. So the only thing I'm going to do is I am going to find my grease pencil again and kind of mark where I want the holes to be. So this is my front here. I'm just going to mark where I want my holes to be, just sort of in general. Since I'm only doing one signature, I don't have to have other signatures that line up or anything like that. So I want to put my top hole down a little bit, you know, from the top edge there, so nothing gets ripped out. And I'm going to do something similar at the bottom. So those are my top holes there. And then I will kind of basically measure for the middle. So we know this is 6 inches here. So if I count up 1, 2, 3 inches, I'm just going to, just so it's close to the middle, because when you open it up on the inside of the signature, you know, you do want it to be a little bit close in there. So that's all I'm going to do. And I pulled this out because I do also want to make the front face piece here for the first part of the journal there when I do that too. So for sewing my 3-hole pamphlet stitch here, I'm just going to take my thread and do it just about 3 times the height. And I just, you know, do that very general, give myself a couple inches extra to be sure, you know, I have enough. And that's kind of how I measure my thread there. And now this is a nylon cord, and it doesn't have any top coating or anything. So I'm going to just use my beeswax here to give it a little bit of tooth so that when I'm pulling it through, it will kind of hold in there better. So I'm just going to run this over my beeswax just a couple times to kind of make it a little bit more textured so it'll catch better, if that makes sense. Okay, so I'm using my big bookbinding needle here. And then you can decide if you want your strings to be in the middle of the signature or out the back. If you want your tie, your end pieces to be inside your signature, then you want to start sewing with your first hole being inside the signature. I want mine to be outside the signature, so I'm going to actually start in this hole here. And so I'm just going to poke this hole here. And now I didn't poke any holes in here like I normally, you know, would have for anything else. So I'm just going to line this up, and I'm going to punch through there. Actually, I think all I'll do, just to make it a little bit easier, let me grab a, well, where's my pencil? I've lost everything. Nothing new there. where is it? I don't know where my pencil is. All right, let me just grab this here. And I'm just going to mark the center of this so that I get close to where I want to be. 1, 2, 3. Just so I know. Try that again. Can't really see that there very well. Okay. And like I said, this is just kind of a guesstimate there. So I can see my little mark there. I'm going to hold my signature fairly closed, and I still did not go through all the papers there correctly. There we go. So I'm going to try and get that close to the middle if I can. And if you want to make holes, you of course could make your holes first, you know, and probably would be a little bit more scientific than I'm doing. And now I had made the holes on the outside. So for this first one, I'm just going to end up, you know, being close. So I want to bring this in maybe a little, like a 1/2 inch or so. We're going to go through here. If I can, whoop, there it is. And then I'm going to put this down on my thing there, on my spine. And I'm going to see if I made it in the correct spot. So you do want to be kind of close for this, and I think I'm a little bit off. So I'm going to pull this out of just the spine. Oh, there we go. Maybe what I should do is I should mark it again. So where's my pencil that I can't find? I don't know. And this actually, it does look like I did was okay where I was. So about there. See, I got that tape got a little bit of glue on this. So I don't know if I made I'm just looking to make sure I'm getting my punch through to the center line of my spine there. So let's pull this through. And before I do anything else, I am just going to pull these tight and make sure, you know, my signature is sitting inside of my journal where I want it to be. Like the papers aren't coming out the top or the bottom too much. And then we're going to go all the way through. So now I think this time I'm just going to open it up now that I have my signature where I want it. And I'm just going to try to go right through the whole thing. I'm sure this would be easier if I had holes. And I want to make sure I don't totally stick myself, because I've done that before with these needles. Oof. Yeah. I'm thinking I should have had holes, friends. I did this on my test one, and it worked out a little bit better than this one did. Okay, so we'll pull this through. Got that going. Okay, and so now the last piece, I'm actually just going to pull this a little bit so I have some more on the end there. Okay, and the last step then is to go back through your original hole to the outside of the journal. And honestly, I don't even think this is the hole, because I have a hole in this one and it's still hard to get through. So it might be the tape that's giving me a lot of resistance there. Okay, so no problem. Now I'm just going to make sure that everything is tight, because I don't want my signature to pull away from my spine at all. So I'm making sure all of my strings are tight through every stitch, and then it's nice and tight in the middle there. And then I like to make sure there's one end on either side of the long stitch we did in the back. And I'm just going to go ahead and knot it here. And like I said, this part will be hidden with the fabric that we put over top there. Oops, I don't think I made a knot that time. So I'm just doing a couple knots here to make sure it stays nice and tight. And then I'm going to cut these off like that. So those will be covered when we do our finish. Okay, so if you were going to, oops, I'm going to take off my, if you were going to do just a double do-si-do journal with a signature in each, you would do this exact same thing on this side so that you'd have it ready to go. But now what I want to do is I do want to go in and cover this piece here. And if I wanted to add anything to this side, I'm going to do that as well right here. So I just grabbed this this piece of printed paper scrapbook. Now this is the heavy cardstock one that I'm going to use to make these inside pieces and things here. So I thought this would be fun to add this on here, and then maybe add a pocket, maybe this blue that kind of matches what's on here there as well. So I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do yet with this, because I do like the label too. So I'm not sure. And this is going to cut apart this label, but that's okay. We'll just have to deal with that. And then maybe I can, let's see. I didn't want to use this one because it's kind of the exact same as the front. So I'm going to use the back side, so it's a little bit different. Okay, so I think I'm going to do that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we're going to mark this. Now I don't think I want these birds to be on. So I'm going to mark it from this side. So, and I'm trying to feel for the end of the cardboard because I don't want it to go over that, so that we still have a nice gap here for this to fold over. So I think I feel that right there. I'm just kind of putting it down there, and I'm going to give myself maybe 1/8 of an inch as a buffer there. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the width. So I'm going to give myself 1/8 of an inch at the top, and then come down and give myself about 1/8 of an inch at the bottom. So let's see. How this does. Okay. So this piece will fit right on there. And then I do think I want to add a little pocket to the bottom of this. So I'm going to actually take this off now, and we're going to measure it right on the piece. And I'm going to measure this one to be exactly the same width as this piece. If I can find my mark. And that will be my little pocket, and I like the way that looks there. So I think I'm going to add a little notch in there. So I'm going to grab my 1-inch hole punch. I'm going to find the center of this. And actually I'm going to decide, yeah, I think I like this better on this side. Yes. So I'm going to find the center. Just make a little mark so that I can see where I'm punching here. And I'll have a nice little notch in there. And then I'm going to distress everything, and then I'm going to sew the pocket on. And what I'm going to do when I sew the pocket on is just on this piece by itself, I'm going to sew across the top, and then I'll put the 2 pieces together and just sew the 3 edges around to make it a pocket. But before I do that, I'm going to distress everything, and then I will sew, and we'll get that pocket put together. Okay, I finished sewing the front piece, but I went ahead and cut away from that other piece just a little tiny piece like this that I thought I would make a little tuck spot in the back here. So this is 6 inches high, and then I made it about, let's see, looks like almost 1 3/4 inches wide or so. It has to be pretty small because you need to be able to, you know, tuck stuff in there. So I'm just grabbing one of our, actually, let me just grab this. So if you have a little piece of ephemera, you can still get it into here without, you know, it being difficult to get in there. So I just cut that piece, and then I just sewed around the whole outside of it, since I'm not going to sew through the cardboard here, and I'm going to glue this on as well. So I'm going to grab my 3-in-1 glue, and for this one I'm going to just sew the 3 sides, so that we leave, you know, the top part open, or the side part open, for this to be a little tuck spot. And I got my little sewing threads out there that I love so much. I like having these little things out there. And I think I'm going to take that off. Actually, no, I'm going to leave it on, because I was going to say, now that I'm looking at this, to cover up this spine, I'm going to have to put some of that fabric over top of this, which is okay. So as long as it's, you know, I'm not going to put fabric all the way to the end here. It is going to cover up some of this pocket that we just made here, but that's okay. I'm okay with that. You could leave this just perfectly plain if you wanted to as well, but I always like having as many pockets and tucks and different things like that that I can have. So we're going to leave that there. It will get covered up a little, but that's okay. And then we're going to do this one, and I'm going to glue this entire thing down. So this, we're going to cover the whole back side of it and put it down on the inside cover there. And the problem with that other one is that because that middle piece is an inside and an outside cover, kind of, it makes it hard to add things to it. But we'll work around it. That's what we're going to do. I'm just going to make sure I have enough on the sewn portions of this to make sure it stays down. Okay. I'm going to try to make sure some of my little threads are sticking out, because I do like those sticking out. Okay. And I'm looking to make sure I have my little border around here a little bit. And we'll press that down. Okay, so our first side, besides the covering part, is done. I think I'm going to do the covering the spine last, I do believe, because anything that I put there, I kind of, you know, want to be underneath of our cover. So that is our front side of the Do-Si-Do journal. And now we're going to start working on the back side and everything that's on the inside. So I think I'm going to open it just like this for now. And I do need to remember that this, so we're going to have our cover, fabric cover, spine cover here and here, and a little bit onto here. So I have to watch what I put on here to make sure that, you know, it doesn't interfere with, you know, what I'm going to be doing there. Okay, I pulled out my other cardstock papers. So this is the double-sided prints of the cardstock papers. This is what I'm going to use to build what I want to build here in the other side of my journal. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of build all the pieces, and then we'll put them together and put them down when we get them all built. So the first thing I thought I would do is I thought I would make just like a little accordion flip on this side. So let's see. Yeah. And then we'll add pockets and, you know, different tucks and things like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a piece that is, well, I'm going to leave it pretty long just until we figure out what we need. But I'm going to get the size from the size of the journal. So we know it's about 6 inches high. I'm just going to mark it instead of measuring just on my ruler, giving myself that 1/8 of an inch sort of border in here. So I just marked it here for height, and then we're just going to cut the whole thing down that way. Let me see what we're going to be getting here. Yeah, I think that'll be good. So let me find my mark. I think that's it. Okay, and we can use that for pockets and things like that. And then what I was thinking is this would be the little accordion. So if I start it this way, no, that's not going to work. I want to start it this way, I think, because I want it to kind of fold out this way. So I know that this is approximately 3.5. So if we do, I'm just going to see how many folds I can get if I do about 3.5. So actually, I think I'll do a little bit less. The first one needs to be 3.5 because that one's going to be down on here. So 1, 2, 3.5 is about right here. And maybe I'll mark that just so I can get an idea. But then my next folds, I think I'm going to make them a little bit less than 3.5, so I don't have to worry about any overlap or anything like that. So I'm going to do this one at maybe 3.25. And then we'll see if we can get another 1, 2, 3.25. And that's getting very close to our little lady here. So this would go this way, then that way, and that would be folded back on, which I don't think I want. Okay, because I was thinking about making a little tuck spot with this end piece, but because it would be folded this way, which you know, it could be that way. I kind of want her to be showing if I'm going to do that. So let me see, I could do it this way and just see how this would work. Well, she wouldn't be showing there either because I would be gluing her down. So the first part, so you can see here, I'm just going to make a little accordion. So this first piece is going to be about the same size as the piece underneath. So that's my 3.5 inches. And actually it looks like it's, I need to be careful about that because I don't want it to go over into the spine or anything. So I may need to actually measure this from the journal itself so I don't go over. I don't know what that is. All right, let me erase my marks here. So I think I'm only going to want 2 folds. So we're probably going to cut off the end of this piece and maybe use it for something else if we want to here. Okay, so there's one. So now what I'm going to do, oops, not with that. I'm going to mark this. Let's see if I can. I'm going to mark this on this side to score it. I think I got it right. And I'm just going to score this. I'm scoring it on the opposite side because I want to fold it. Oops. I don't think I did that right. Oh, yeah, I did. This way. Okay. I'll just put that back here. So then this piece is going to go right here. And then it's going to fold in this way. And then we'll mark another fold to go the other way. So let's see. Because this one, because it's going the other way, I want to fold it. Actually, that mark might be pretty good that I already had in here. Because like I said, I don't want to worry about things going over the end. So I'm just going to mark it a little bit closer to the edge. Since I'm going to be adding pockets and things like that, I want to kind of make this as big as possible. So fold that this way, that one goes this way. So I want to mark on this side. So I like to mark on the side where I'm going to be folding the mountain fold. So if you've ever heard of that, so I'll show you in just a minute. So I'm marking on this side, but then I'm going to take this and make a mountain fold, which means that it's going to, you know, sit like a mountain. This is a valley fold, this is a mountain fold. So I'm going to fold it like this. And then we're probably going to have to trim off this cute little lady. that's okay. Because if my next fold would be folding it back into her, which, you know, if I wanted to, I could, but then you can't see her anyway. So I'm going to cut off right at that mark. And we'll have our first base piece ready to start adding some things to it. So move that out of the way. Okay, so this is our base piece. So we're going to, when we attach it here, it will fold out here with our different things on it. Okay, so that's that side started. And actually, let's go ahead and do that side. And I just kind of want to give you an idea. So when you have your journal here, this will be closed. When you open this up, there will be a nice little fold out here. And actually, I think that might be fun to add maybe a little pull tab here so that you can see that. Okay. So now we have to decide what we're going to do with all these other things. So this side is going to be glued down completely. So I'm just going to do that and make a little X there so I know I'm not going to add any embellishments to that side. And then we can decide what we're doing with some of this other stuff. And I'm just going to kind of, I've thought about this a little bit ahead of time, but because of the different papers I might be cutting out and things like that, it might be fun to just kind of, see how it comes together. So I think on the bottom piece, it might be fun to do another little tuck spot with her. I think that's a perfect little, size. We talked about it being 1.5 inches, and that's almost exactly what this is. So I can take I can do some corner rounds on here if I want to. And I could also maybe put a notch in here, but I kind of don't want to mess her up too much. So I'm going to do that here. And because this side, I'm not going to put anything on, I may actually sew this right onto the paper together instead of sewing it first and then gluing it down, if that makes sense. Okay, so I think we have our one side done. I think that's perfect here. And then maybe on this side, we'll do like a little double pocket, like a layered pocket. That might be fun. So let's see what I've got to do there. So let's see, I know I had some other, these are a little too small, I think. Yes, that's not cardstock. Here's a little piece. I'm not sure what that was from. That's not wide enough either unless I wanted to put it sideways, which I could put this one sideways and then add some embellishments maybe. Let's see, actually I think I like that. So this one, now I'm just measuring it between the folds. So I know my one fold is right here and my other fold, actually I'll just fold it over, make it easier to see. So I don't want this to go onto the fold, so I'm trying to measure it right to the edge of the fold without going over it. And then this one, I'm just going to mark at the end of that page there. And this will be one of our pockets in our layered pocket here. Yeah, kind of like how it has little pieces of, looks like tape on there. And then we need to decide if we want a pocket to be bigger or smaller than this one. So let me grab this again, I guess. Let's see. Actually, it might be fun just to do, I think I could do that. Just this little advertisement as the bottom piece. That would be fun. Okay. And I might even put that up a little bit higher. But yeah, I think I like that. Or we could do the bottom of this, but I think I like the top better. Just because I think those advertisements are fun. Okay, so I'm just going to take this piece that I know is the right width, and I'm going to mark these to be the same. And then we'll cut that off and then cut this down as well. And I'm just gonna basically cut it right where that line was. And now this can be here, and I can actually put this up a little bit higher if I wanted to, so that this pocket on top looks a little bit bigger, and we can add maybe some labels or some embellishments to that. So I like that as a double pocket, and maybe what I'll do for these is I will just add a very small notch. And I am going to measure in there. And if you want your notches to match on a layered pocket like this one goes down and this is the higher one, you just take the tops of both of the pockets and line them up, and then you punch them together so that they'll be in the exact same spot when you have them separated again. And like I said, I'm just going to do a very small notch because I don't want to cut her out a lot there. But now you can see when I move this back down, now my notches match, you know, top and bottom there. Okay, so I think that's what we're doing here. I like that. Okay, so that one's done. So now let's see what we can do on this one. Now I thought this one, because my bird is down here, I thought it might be fun just to do maybe like a top tuck spot there. So let me see what I have to kind of work with. Let's see. I don't think I cut anything else apart yet. I kind of like this piece here. Let me just kind of take a look at what else we got. Actually, that might be kind of nice. Just sort of a plain, nice blue, or I know I have another one that's just plain brown. That might be nice on there. Let's see, what would I be cutting apart? Yeah, let's do that. I think that would be nice. So I'm just going to cut a piece here. That is, this looks like maybe 2 inches or so. And then the same, you know, width, actually maybe a little bit less. So giving myself maybe 1/8 of an inch on either side, so that once again it doesn't hit anything. And this one I'm going to try not to cut the rest of the paper in case I want to use a bigger piece. So I'm just going to eyeball how far up to cut there, in the hopes that I'm just cutting off what I need, and a little bit more, but I think that will work. So I wanted to leave this as whole as possible in case I want to use it for something else. But I think I'm going to do this right up here as a tuck spot. I like that. But I do want to round the corners a little on the bottom. So I'm going to do this like that. And I think this is the side where I wanted to add a tab as well. Okay, so I'm probably going to sew all around this stuff because you know me, I like to sew everything. But I like this here, and I'm going to distress everything as well. But let's go ahead and make a little tab that we can put on the side here. So let me see if I have any little pieces that might be a fun tab. Actually, this might work. So I'm using this little tab board. You could cut this out by hand if you wanted, or let's see, I may just try and make this tab so that this part of the advertisement is showing. So let me see if I can do this now. What I've noticed is you have to be careful with small pieces because they don't always line up correctly. So to fix this, I am going to cut over here. I mean, we could have done the whole thing if I wanted to, but I think I'm going to leave this as a small tab, obviously. So I'm just going to turn this over and try to line this up as well. So we have a little bitty tab, and I am going to cut this down too, because I'm going to probably put it right by here, and I don't want my bird to get hidden. What's going on there? Okay, so I'm going to try and hold that down. I never seem to be real good at cutting those, but I think that's perfect. Look, I have a little roofing. I could use that for something maybe. Okay. All right, so this side is looking good. Now, because, like I said, this side I'm not going to put anything on, I can sew this one down. But because I'm probably going to put something on the other side, these two, I might want to be careful how much sewing goes through the other side. Now, you can do that if you want to and you're okay with that, but I may just want to, watch that if I don't want to have sewing all over the place. So this one, my top piece here, I may actually sew because it'll just be at the top. But before I sew anything, I think it would be better for me to decide what I want to do on that side. So I'm going to grab my little sewing things here to kind of hold things on, so I kind of remember where I want things to go. And I know this, like I said, I'm probably going to move this pocket, the one pocket, to make it a little bit higher, but just so I remember, I'm just kind of marking my place on things, so that I can turn this over and decide what I want. So this one I know is the pocket, the low pocket. So if I want to do something here, I might be able to sew it on first and then glue something else on top. I kind of have to decide what I want to do here. So I was thinking on this side, let's see, on this side, I thought it might be fun. So now wait, oops, I missed my tab, because I don't want to forget that that's here too. And just to mark that, I'm gonna just put that here like that. So I have that tab that's gonna be sticking out there. But I thought this might be fun to be like a little side pocket. So I'm thinking about taking an entire piece, maybe this book page one, or maybe my Clementine. Actually, the book page one might be fun, because then maybe what we'll do is we'll add like a little window in here as well. I think that might be really fun. Yeah, I think I like that idea. Okay, so for this side, I'm going to measure my piece, and this one I want to go up to the first fold there, but not over it. And then I do need to measure the height to make sure it's the same height. And this isn't necessarily real easy to do with the clips on there, but we're going to work through it. Okay, so I'm going to cut this down, and maybe I will try to do the same thing as I did before and just cut the piece out that I want in case I want to use another part of this. There we go. Okay, so now I'm thinking that it would be really fun to add a little window in here. But to do that, I'm probably going to use, now you could like use a punch if you wanted to, but I don't know that I could get this in the center where I might want it. So instead, I'm probably going to use my die cuts. So I have some circles and I have some ovals, and I think I'm going to use a die cut to make the window in here. So I'm going to put this like that, because now I have something that I want to do there. And what I could probably do is sew the two of these together, since I'm going to sew this here and keep this as a little pocket there. I think that would work out. I think that would work out well. I will want to sew my tab on first so that I don't sew through to close the opening. But okay, good. Now I think this is coming together. I'm excited about this. And now I can decide what to do with this side here. And we could just do another pocket here, Or we could do maybe, it might be fun to do like a, I don't know how big this is, if I could do like a square envelope. That might be fun. Let's see, what do we got? 1, 2, yeah, this is 3 inches. So let me see if I can figure out how to make maybe a 3-inch, or actually I could do it larger. I could maybe do 3 by 4 or 5 envelope. That might be fun on here, because as we pull it out, so this is going to go like this, and then you can turn it over and we could have the envelope on here. So I like that idea. Let me decide, actually on here, I might want to do the pockets on there and put the envelope on this side, just because I think this will be easier access on this side. So I think I'm going to switch this around. Let's put our pockets on this side. And then we'll see if I can make a little small envelope that we can put on this side, or maybe I even have one that I could use. Okay, I made myself a little envelope, and it's about 3 by 5. So I think this is going to work perfect on here. And this one I am just going to glue down so so that it, it sits right here. So let me just grab something here. So this will be a little pocket right there. And I might even glue it down so that this can be a little pocket, or maybe even one on this side. That might be fun too, to kind of have something else, somewhere else to put something. But we'll have to see. Just because this is so close to the folds, I may not want something sticking out, because then it'll kind of get in the way of everything else. But I do like the way this looks. And so this, since I'm going to glue this down, I'm going to do that last. So I can decide if I actually want to do the stitching on here. And since it won't show that much, I think I'm going to go ahead and do the stitching right on the paper for this one, right on the paper for this one, and right on the paper for this one. Wait, did I come up? Oh, yeah. So then I just need to do my die cut here. I'm going to distress everything, and I'm going to start sewing, and I'll be back and show you where we're at.